On my 28th birthday, my boss fired me without warning. 3 hours later, his lawyer called and said, "Before you leave town, there's something you need to know about your father." Hi, my name is Ava Brooks, and I always believed birthdays were supposed to bring happiness. Mine destroyed my life. I had worked at coal industries for 6 years. I wasn't the oldest employee. I wasn't the highest paid, but I was the first one in the office every morning, and usually the last one to leave. That Tuesday started differently. Everyone smiled as I walked into work. A few coworkers wished me a happy birthday. Someone even left a small cupcake on my desk. I smiled. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then my phone rang. "Ava." It was my boss, Richard Cole. His voice was cold. "Come to my office." Immediately, I straightened my jacket and walked upstairs. Richard stood beside the floor-to-ceiling window with his back turned toward me. He didn't say happy birthday. He didn't even ask me to sit down. Instead, he quietly placed a brown envelope on his desk. "I have to let you go." I laughed. "I'm sorry? Your employment ends today." My smile disappeared. "What? I've done everything this company has asked." "I know. Then why?" For the first time, he looked directly into my eyes. There was sadness, regret, even guilt. But his answer never came. Instead, he pressed the intercom. "Security. Escort Miss Brooks from the building." My world collapsed. I packed my desk in silence. No one understood what had happened. Neither did I. As I stepped outside, carrying a cardboard box filled with 6 years of memories, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. "Ava Brooks?" "Yes. My name is Martin Hayes. I'm Richard Cole's attorney." My stomach tightened. If this is about my termination, I'm not interested. "It isn't." A long silence followed. Then he said the words that changed everything. "Mr. Cole isn't just your boss." Martin took a deep breath before finishing his sentence. "He's the father you've been searching for your entire life." I couldn't speak. My fingers tightened around my phone. "You're lying." Martin sighed. "I wish I were. My mother told me my father died before I was born. She told you what Richard asked her to tell you." Everything around me suddenly felt unreal. I leaned against my car to keep from falling. Why would he do that? I can't explain everything over the phone, but I can prove it. He gave me an address. My office. "Come alone." An hour later, I sat across from Martin Hayes. Without saying a word, he slid an old photograph across the desk. It showed a young Richard Cole. Standing beside him was my mother. She couldn't have been older than 20. They were smiling, holding each other. I picked up the photo with shaking hands. This can't be real." Martin quietly opened another folder. Inside were dozens of letters. Every envelope had my mother's name written on it. They were written by Richard. He never mailed them. I looked at the first page. "Evelyn, I know your parents hate me, but I won't stop fighting for you." Another letter. "I heard our daughter was boring today. Please, let me see her just once." My heart stopped. "Our daughter." Tears filled my eyes. "He knew about me." Martin nodded. "From the day you were born." "Then why wasn't he there?" Martin's expression changed. "Because someone made sure he never could be." He reached into the folder again. This time, he placed an old newspaper clipping in front of me. The headline read, "Local businessman arrested for corporate fraud." The photograph showed Richard Cole being led away in handcuffs. "The charges were fake," Martin said quietly. "They were created to destroy him. And while he was in prison, your mother disappeared." I covered my mouth. "So, he spent all these years believing we abandoned each other?" Martin slowly nodded. "He searched for you for nearly 3 decades. Then why fire me?" For the first time, Martin looked nervous. "Because someone inside Coal Industries found out who you really are." Martin handed me a confidential employee file. Across the top, in bold red letters, someone had written, "Remove her before Reacher tells the truth." I stared at the words until they blurred. Someone inside the company wanted me gone. Not because I was a bad employee, but because they knew who I really was. I looked at Martin. "Who wrote this?" He slowly shook his head. "We don't know. But Richard suspected someone had discovered the truth. That's why he fired you. I frowned. He fired me. To protect me? Martin nodded. If you stayed inside Coal Industries, your life would have been in danger. Before I could answer, my phone began ringing. Mom. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. Finally, I answered. Ava? Her voice sounded frightened. Where are you? Why? I need to see you. Now. For 28 years. My mother had never sounded like that. An hour later, I walked into her small house. She was sitting at the kitchen table, crying. The moment she saw me, she stood up. I'm sorry. For what? She reached into a drawer and pulled out an old wooden box. I've been lying to you your whole life. Inside the box were dozens of photographs. My mother, Richard Cole, baby pictures of me, birthday cards signed, love Dad. None of them had ever been given to me. Tears streamed down my face. You kept these? She couldn't look at me. I thought I was protecting you. From what? She closed her eyes. From your grandfather. I froze. My grandfather, Richard's father, he hated me. He swore that if Richard ever chose us over the company, he would destroy all three of us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So Richard never abandoned us? She shook her head. No, I was the one who disappeared. Suddenly, someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. My mother turned pale. No, he's found us. Before I could ask who she meant, the front door burst open. 3 men in black suits walked inside. The man in the center smiled. Miss Brooks, my name is Victor Cole. He adjusted his tie before speaking again. I'm your grandfather. Victor looked directly into my eyes and said the words that made my blood run cold. Your father made one mistake. He chose you over the family empire. The room fell silent. I looked at my mother. She was shaking, not with anger, with fear. Victor, she whispered. Leave her alone. He smiled. I've left her alone for 28 years. That was my mistake. I stepped in front of my mother. What do you want from me? Victor slowly removed his leather gloves. You. Why? Because you're Richard's only child. My heart skipped a beat. He continued. The board is replacing Richard as CEO next month. And according to our family's trust, if Richard has a biological heir, that heir inherits controlling shares of Coal Industries. I stared at him. I don't want your company. I don't care about your money. Victor laughed. I know. That's exactly why you're dangerous. Before I could answer, Martin Hayes walked through the front door. He looked directly at Victor. You shouldn't be here. Victor's smile disappeared. You've become a problem, Martin. Martin ignored him and handed me a sealed envelope. Richard asked me to give you this. If anything ever happened. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. My dearest Ava, if you're reading this, it means I failed to protect you. Everything I've done, even firing you, was to keep you alive. Someone on the board has been planning this for years. Don't trust anyone, except Martin. Tears blurred the page. At the bottom, Richard had signed it. Not as Richard Cole, but as Dad. For the first time in my life, I cried for a father I had only just found. Suddenly, Martin's phone rang. He answered. His face turned pale. What? No. He slowly lowered the phone. What happened? I asked. Martin looked straight at me. They've taken Richard. My heart stopped. Who? Victor smiled without saying a word. Then Martin whispered, the board of directors. They're forcing him to sign away the company. Tonight. Just then, my phone buzzed. A video arrived from an unknown number. When I pressed play, Richard was tied to a chair. A masked voice said only one sentence. If Ava wants her father back alive, she must sign the inheritance papers herself. The video ended. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. Richard was tied to a chair. His face was bruised. But before the screen went black, he looked directly into the camera. He slowly shook his head. It wasn't fear. It was a warning. Don't sign, Martin whispered. They're trying to force the transfer of voting shares. I looked at him. If I don't sign, they'll kill my father. Before Martin could answer, my mother grabbed my arm. They won't stop with Richard. They'll come for you next. Just then, another message appeared. Come to Coal Industries. Alone. Midnight. Victor had chosen the company's headquarters, the very building where I had spent 6 years of my life. At 11:55 p.m., I walked through the empty lobby. The lights were off. Only the boardroom on the top floor was glowing. When the elevator doors opened, every member of the board was already seated around the long oak table. Victor stood at the head. Richard was tied to a chair beside him. His mouth was bleeding. Victor smiled. Welcome, Ava. A stack of documents lay in front of me. Sign these, and your father walks free. I picked up the papers. Every page transferred Richard's controlling shears. To Victor. You don't want a granddaughter, I said quietly. You want the company. Victor didn't even deny it. The Cole family built this empire. Richard almost destroyed it. The day he chose your mother. I slowly reached for the pen. Richard suddenly shouted through the tape covering his mouth. His eyes pleaded with me. Don't do it. Victor laughed. Your father is still as stubborn as ever. I uncapped the pen, then looked directly at Victor. I'll sign. A smile spread across his face. But first, I have one condition. Victor narrowed his eyes. What condition? I smiled for the first time all night. Read page 14. Victor frowned. There is no page 14. I quietly replied, There is now. The boardroom doors suddenly burst open. Dozens of armed officers stormed inside, and the lead detective pointed straight at Victor before saying, Richard Cole, you're free. The boardroom exploded into chaos. Detectives rushed past me as officers forced every board member to the floor. Victor Cole didn't even try to run. He simply smiled. You think you've won? The lead detective snapped handcuffs around his wrists. It's over, Victor. No. Victor replied calmly, You've only arrested an old man. The real thief is sitting at his table. Every hat turned. One of the directors suddenly bolted toward the emergency exit. Claire Benson, Richard's executive assistant, the woman who had worked beside him for nearly 10 years. She almost made it. An officer tackled her just before she reached the door. A flash drive fell from her purse. Martin picked it up. Within minutes, investigators opened the files. Millions of dollars had been secretly transferred from Coal Industries. Over the past 7 years, every transfer had Claire's authorization. Every payment ended in offshore accounts controlled by Victor. Richard slowly looked at Claire. You are family. Claire lowered her head. I never had a choice. Victor laughed. You always have a choice. You simply chose money. As officers escorted them away, Richard finally turned toward me. For the first time, there were no lawyers, no board members, no lies, only Sellens. He walked closer. I've imagined this moment for 28 years. His voice trembled. I missed your first steps, your first day of school, every birthday. I can't get those years back. Tears streamed down my face. You should have found me sooner. I tried. He pulled a small silver necklace from his pocket. I bought this the day you were born. I carried it every single day, hoping I'd get the chance to give it to you. With shaking hands, he placed it around my neck. Neither of us could stop crying. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing beside my bus. I was standing beside my father. 6 months later, Richard stepped down as CEO, not because he was forced to, because he wanted a different life. He asked me to join the company. I smiled. Only if you promise one thing. He laughed softly. Anything. No more calling me Miss Brooks. He wrapped his arms around me. I couldn't, because from now on, you'll always be my daughter.